All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode. Today we have Brian Moses with us. He is a comedian and he is the creator of Roast Battle. So welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Of course, man. From the other side, from the Pacific. I won't give
You're
exact.
over there. Where are you in that where the hurricanes happen?
Yes, that is it. Yeah. On the east side. So what I want to start off with, and it's kind of a typical place to start, but I'm always just curious. Before comedy, what were you doing, and then what led you to comedy? Because, and I watch a lot of Rogan, watch a lot of different comedians. It's such a tough industry. So I think, well, okay, that's another question. But so let's start with the first one. What were you doing before, and what led you to comedy?
What was I doing before stand-up comedy? Before stand-up comedy, I was in sales. So I was selling anything, right? So these were like college years of between 18 and 22, because I think I started right out of, well, I guess that would be the quintessential time you start, after your career would be at 22, right?
Yeah.
So at 22, I think I started comedy. So for like those first like 4 years out of high school, I'm kind of toiling around, I'm selling gym memberships, I'm selling cell phones, I'm doing like that, I'm in a kiosk, I'm on a campus, a college campus selling cell phones, or I'm in LA Fitness or a Valley Soul Fitness selling a gym membership. So anything that I could sell, I would. Vacuums at one point. I was selling cars. I was selling everything.
That's awesome.
I was selling like scholarships. I think like college scholarships at one point, like online college scholarships. Yeah.
Wait, how does that work? You sell them to get the government to give them money, or the college? Depends on
It
what.
was something. It was like right when that online internet craze started happening. So they were trying to get like graduates or like postgraduates in there.
Yeah.
So that was basically, it was just like, hey, you can get you can go and get your master's over here, and then it won't cost you anything.
Okay, got it. So it seems to me that you knew at a young age, at least, that you were going to be doing something with like people. Like you weren't going to be like an accountant or something, obviously.
Yeah, honestly, I wanted to be a lobbyist. I mean, like when I was going to like junior college, it was like the whole thing was, all right, I'm going to go to school and probably become like a history teacher or something weird, just because you never know what you want to do when you go to college, right? Unless you actually know what you want to do. So you just think like general education. So at that point, I think I was like, I'm probably just going to be a teacher somewhere, or maybe like, I'll do some paralegal and maybe end up with like a law degree, hopefully, if I get the degree first, like in history or something.
Yeah.
And then I got into English because I was like, oh, I'm getting into writing, and I got into stand-up comedy a little bit. And then I did this government class, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be a lobbyist. That's the move, right? Fuck being a lawyer. Like lobbyists is where all the parties are at.
Yeah.
And then I took this like sexual psychology class with these like two cats who happen to be Jewish. And it turns out that a lot of people in the Jewish community and culture happen to know what stand-up comedy is. And then they were like, we had a lot of fun together, and we did a lot of sketches for this like sexual psychology class. And they were like, hey man, you should do stand-up comedy. And I'd always thought about it, but I came from like a small town, so I didn't know any like stand-up clubs. And then I moved to San Diego. I was at this, this JUCO, and then I was like, sure, I'll check it out. And then I checked it out. That's the
Got
story.
it. No, that's awesome, man. And then did you, and maybe it was kind of easy for you, which would be rare, but did you know how hard it would be before you got into it? Or was it in fact easy?
I treated it like going to college, right? Like say you're going to, like say you're an athlete and you're going to, like you're picking a school to go to before you go to your profession, which is like maybe you're a soccer player, a basketball player, a hockey player, or whatever, so have you. So I treated it as that. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be this like artist, and there's a lot of open mics around in San Diego. There's like one comedy club at that time. So I treated it like, all right, I'll just treat this as like my college. So I'll treat this as the comedy college kind of a thing. So I knew it was a marathon, not a sprint kind of a thing.
Got it. Yeah, I wish I knew, because before moving here, I actually lived in Encinitas for 6 years. Are you familiar with that area?
Big money. Oh yeah.
Yeah, dude, I lived there for 6 years before here, and I'm not kidding. I don't think I went to one comedy show because I just didn't know it was there. I didn't.
Don't think about it. Yeah, that place is paradise. You're not thinking like.
Yeah, no, right. I'm looking at the cliffs.
Yeah,
Good point. Yeah, I guess I didn't seek it out, but is it in? I know in LA, right? Because the Comedy Store or whatever. But and I've never been. I just heard about it on Rogan's show and stuff. But is it bigger in San Diego than LA, or pretty equal?
The scene is bigger in LA. The club itself, I would say, like, because it's well, here's the thing. I think in places like New York and Los Angeles, there's a lot more comedy clubs just because there's a lot more people doing those arts, like performing arts. when you go to places like San Diego, San Francisco, anywhere outside of Los Angeles or New York, really, they're like the second tier or third tier markets for the arts. So there's just more people doing it in these two cities, which makes it a little harder. It makes people more jaded because everybody's trying stand-up comedy in Los Angeles who's probably coming to see you, right, for the most part. And San Diego, it's like there's not a big scene. So when people are going, it's like that's probably the first and last time they're ever going to go to a comedy club, right? Unless they're just like they get the bug and they're like, you know what, this is our thing, we're doing this. But that's really rare. So I mean, I think there's a study that even says that I think the average couple or the average person sees like maybe one comedy show in their lifetime, if that.
Wow, dude, that's too low. That's crazy. So in Miami, the scene is actually pretty good. Like it's probably not as good as there. And obviously Austin is going to be nuts soon. And it already is, right? I think like Kill Tony, he's been doing that for a while. But regardless, it's something, I think it should be like a monthly thing at least, dude. Like it's
I like that. That's funny.
Dude, I think it's amazing. I love it. I am terrified.
How often do you go? How often do you go to a stand-up show?
So I go, what was my last one? Okay, my last big one was Seinfeld, and that was in Hollywood, Florida, at the Hard Rock, the guitar thing.
And I used to work at a Hard Rock, actually. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, so dude, have you seen him live before? Obviously, I'm sure you've seen.
Yeah, he was in town last week. Actually, I didn't see him then, but he is. The last time he was in town, he did the Comedy Store, and yeah, I saw him then. I mean, he's amazing. He really is.
Dude, yeah, that was he was different. Like meaning in a sense of it was almost like every line was the punchline. It was so like it, yeah, like I want to correctly say how it was, like every sentence was funny. It was really strange, like meaning like there was no build up. It was like hit. And I was
didn't waste any words, yeah.
Dude, it was insane. Yeah, it didn't waste any words. It was nuts. But what I'm used to, there's actually a place here, and the website, I think it's miamicomedy.com, and I forget his name, but some guy down here runs it, and it's more for like people starting out. And so it's called the Red Bar, and then you go and you do like 3 to 5 minutes. So I go there like I'd say once a month is fair. And it's hit or miss. Like some people really are not funny at all, and then some are funny. And I can relate, and that's why I wanted to ask you this next question is like, were you a natural on stage at first? Like, were you nervous at first or not really?
Yeah, I think everybody's nervous at first. It's crazy if you're not nervous. That means you're some kind of like
be a little
sociopath. You're a psychopath. I hope you're not. These are strangers. Like
I agree. I know, but I feel like, well, no, Seinfeld. I mean, he's been doing it for decades, but like, I wonder what his first show was like. Like that would be interesting to watch.
It would be interesting to watch. I mean, like, gosh, remember Eliza Schlesinger. She's got a few Netflix specials out there, but she's a big name comic. But her uncles, I remember when she was kind of coming up, and I was working at the La Jolla Comedy Store in San Diego, and she was on Last Comic Standing, and she was kind of like going around to all the clubs in like Southern California, and she bring her uncles around, and they were telling like all the door guys there, I remember Seinfeld when he was first coming up. We used to tell him, "You're terrible, Jerry," that kind of thing. It was the funniest thing. Eliza Schlesinger's uncles were like a couple of the funniest guys you'd ever meet. But yeah, it was that. But I remember like even like hearing an interview or something like that where Seinfeld would say like, yeah, it's just you just work and work. Like you start as a toddler. Like, he treated stand-up almost like it's like growing up. Like your first 5 years, you're an infant to a toddler. Expects to 5-10, you're kind of like your formative years, and then you get to your teenage years, and you're kind of molding your craft, and then by the time you're in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, you're just kind of like you should be knocking it out of the park.
Wow, dude, that's actually an incredible way to describe it. And it's so crazy to think like, dude, that's so long term. That's a forever.
You have to think about it like that.
Wow. Because in most things like sales, for instance, right? Like, and you were doing a lot of different things, but let's just say, I mean, there's sales as a whole, but then if you were to have stuck with a company, like one company for 5 years selling one thing, you'd probably do 6 figures within the first 3 to 5 years, right? So I'm just saying, compared to comedy, things are way quicker of a growth curve, I guess. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like timing and angles because it's show business. You know what I mean? It's about your look. It's about how they can market you. You know what I mean? For the most part, as a stand-up, you're just trying to figure out who you are and what your voice is, right? Especially as a performer on stage in front of all these people. You have to you have to impress upon these people or even create a synergy with these people that you are funny and we're having a good time here.
Yeah.
And when you're marketing yourself for show business, it's a different kind of a lane. With stand-up, it's always going to be there. So you're always going to be doing it in essence. So you kind of have to keep that mentality of, if I don't make it doing this, I'm not going to make it in the first 3 to 5 years, because that's show business. That's just that's how you sell and market yourself. Not so much as like your craft of if you're working out, if I'm a bodybuilder, there's probably so much I have, like so much time I have before I can't show off anymore. But if I'm just working out just to live, just to exercise, I need it for, just because I love it. That's what it is. Like basketball. Like I'm not playing basketball to make money. I'm just doing it just to exercise, and I just love playing the game.
Yeah.
That's what stand-up is. Like it's essentially, that's what the marathon is you're doing this because you love it, not so much because you're going to be making money in those 3 to 5 years.
Gotcha.
But hopefully you do.
Yeah, no, of course. And that actually was kind of similar. I think I'm sure you're familiar with Bobby Lee, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, so I watch Tiger Belly too. Like I think that's a good podcast. And either way, like he kind of says and I think he just turned 50 or whatever, but he started a while ago, and I know he did well for a while, but I think he said just recently, a few years ago, is when things really started to take off. And before that, he actually at one point, I think 5-10 years ago, was thinking about giving up on it completely, because I think he just had a downturn or something. So regardless, it just proves your point that he's 50 and now it's everything's there, but it took 20 years or whatever.
Dude, look at Marin. I mean, it's ebb and flows, man. It really is. I mean, that's just what it is. It's when you're young and hot, they all want to sell you, right? I mean, Marin was young and hot in his 20s, Bobby young and hot in his 20s. Then you hit your 30s a little bit, they kind of forget about you, Then, the podcast thing started taking off. So you see Bobby kind of start bubbling back up. Bill Burr didn't really go anywhere. He just kind of became more successful. And then Bobby Lee, because he's back in the zeitgeist now, after the Mad TV and all, it's this podcast really brings him back into everybody's, mainframe.
For sure. Yeah, good point. So the podcast is probably, and I think he's actually said that's part, if not a majority part, of the reason the opportunities are flowing, because he's built an audience that's actually his now.
Right.
So yeah, so when you and I know these are questions that comedians normally get, I'm curious on the stories around them, is so at first you were nervous, and then I'm sure you bombed, at least a few times. Maybe you still do occasionally.
Still bombing.
That's so wild. So have you, though, you're used to that now, though? I would have, in some regard.
I'll say this. It's like falling on, if you ever skateboard or do something it's like doing a trick and you're I know how to do that kind of a thing. And then you don't nail it, and you're just trying it. I mean, that's stand-up. It's you're going to have nights you're just going to kill. And, and at this point in my career, I know how to kill. Right? Yeah. But it's not being addicted to killing. I think there was a comic named KT Tatara who told me that. And I think he'd heard that from a comic. I think it was Bill Burr actually told him that, was you can't really be addicted to killing because you can't grow that way. If you just stay in one act, that you're not putting on TV or on an album, and you're just doing this one act the whole time. I mean, sure, you can do that act your whole life. I mean, Jay Leno does that. That's why he has put an album or a special. He's he can do that material the rest of his life. Yeah. Because nobody's going to hear it unless you see him live. But guys who are constantly putting stuff out and then they keep doing that same material, it's what's the point of that? How are you going to grow? It's not just being an artist, it's just in this craft, how are we going to respect you? So
for sure.
You have to bomb. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. You have to get uncomfortable with the silence. You have to get uncomfortable with people being uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable with it not going well. And it sucks. It sucks when it happens. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna be scraping your knee. It's gonna be, breaking an ankle. It's gonna feel like getting punched in the face.
Yeah, dude, it's so crazy.
It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, because I feel all that's obviously accurate, and it's just going back to Kill Tony, because each week it's a new minute that people will go up, and I've seen I've maybe watched, I don't know, 20 episodes of that. I know there's way more, but I've watched 20, and I've seen the same people, and some weeks they'll go up and their minute is flawless. It just kills. And then 2 weeks later they come up and Tony just looks and is what the fuck happened? You were amazing. But it's because they're trying out a completely new minute. And that's kind of the name of the game, is the only way for you to actually know if it's going to land, it's one thing to tell a few friends, but you got to go to the club and have like, I don't know, 50 people there or something at least to really know if this is going to be a thing. And so you literally have to bomb to know what is working, right?
Yeah, you have to get in the batting cage. You got to get a percentage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to, it's like you got to take those swings. You got to pitch.
It's just such a wild thing to take those swings at, though. Like people are not accustomed to that type of failure, I guess, because it's not really a failure, but what I'm saying is like to be in front of that many people and then watch them all, like you say something and you think it's going to land and then they all just go silent.
Yeah, every time. I'm telling you, Ty, every time it feels like that. You're like, oh man, I know this is going to kill. Like, you're like, wait, it may even have killed 30 minutes prior in another room and it won't kill in this room. That's what's so great about comedy, because it's so subjective. It's not, sometimes it can be universally objective, like like somebody getting kicked in the nuts. That's universally objectively funny, right?
Yeah.
But we're talking about like an abortion, right? Falling out of the nuts that just got kicked. That's more subjective, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. That's so interesting because I had not thought about that. You're right. It's like, so that kind of probably fucks with your head a little bit, meaning like you could go to one club and you're like, I think this is going to land, and then it doesn't. But then you're like, you know what? I really believe in this one. Let me go to a different club. And then it lands at that one, like amazingly. So you literally have two different case studies. One was a complete fail and the other was a complete success.
Yeah.
At that point, what do? You just take it to more, and you need a bigger case study essentially to know.
No, there's a good film on this. It's Steve Byrne. It's called 13 or Bust. And he does 13 sets in one night in New York.
Okay.
He does this like 2006, 2005 or something. And he documented it all. And you can see like he's doing the same material. Some of it's expanding. Some jokes aren't, but you can just see like some crowds dig it, some crowds don't. And that's the game. I mean, there's weeks I'll go, I'm killing with the same stuff, like 3 weeks in a row. And then there's like that 1 week where it's just like every single show, you're just like, this was killing literally like 24 hours ago. What's going on right now?
Dude, that's so crazy. Yeah, I just can't imagine. Like, I feel like my brain already, I'd say my main thing is like marketing, and my brain never turns off about it because marketing is limitless, right? Like you can always do more marketing and there's a limitless amount of ways to do it. So same thing with this is like, if I were to do 10 shows and 7 of them killed with the same material and 3 didn't, I feel like I'd be tossing and turning all night and like trying to calculate.
That's what you do.
Dude, I don't know I can handle that. I'm not
That's exactly what you do. That's what they teach you in sales, man.
I know. I don't know if I'm built for it. Because dude, I had actually Akash on. He does Yeah. So I had him on maybe a couple weeks ago, and I was telling him like at that Red Bar I did try one open mic, and it was a bomb. Like it was bad. But I tried. I did an improv class before that, and it turned out like improv I was actually very good at. Like it just naturally in the moment funny, I guess. But then when I tried to calculate my funniness, complete failure. Very different mechanism of being funny, I suppose. So either way, I wanted to try again, but I just, I don't know. It was just fucked up, honestly.
Yeah. No, improv is great because improv is so supportive. It's built in to be supportive because you need the expectation of being supportive and people having a good time, because that's going to spark more ideas in your brain to throw with people because it's improv, right? As to where stand-up, it's just you, bro. You're the army of one out there. So your improv is basically, all right, if I do some crowd work and this guy's not going to work with me, well, then the improv's done there. I got to go back into my stand-up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a different muscle, and it's a hard tool, man. That's why a lot of actors, musicians, improvers, they always say that stand-up's like the hardest because it is just you, not versus the crowd, but it's you trying to create synergy within the crowd. Not impress upon what you think is funny, but to suggest, and then hopefully you guys all agree that it's funny.
Yeah, dude. So do you ever well, I'm assuming you do, so this leads into the next thing. So tell us a little bit more about Roast Battle.
Yeah. But I will tell you, the first couple times I think when I was doing stand-up, it was great. It was like, I think I was nervous, and then I was like, oh, I got this. And it was that one time I wasn't nervous, it was when I bombed. And it was like, the first time I think I ever went up the first on a show, like going up first. And it was just, dude, I had never felt that feeling of just like saying something that kills. And then it's just like, but that first bomb is like, that's like your dick not working. You know what I mean? Or just like, or like if you're a girl, you're not getting wet. You're just like, dude, I don't know what this normally doesn't happen. Normally I'm knocking this out. You know what I mean? But yeah, that one time you're like, oh, and and nobody wants to feel that way. The audience doesn't want to not like it. You don't want to feel that way. So it's just awkward for everybody.
Good point. You're right. The audience doesn't want that either because it is awkward for everybody.
Yeah, nobody wants to feel cringy. It's just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a balance. Like I know Rogan says I think he smokes a cigarette before he gets up and maybe takes. I don't know if this is exact routine, but that's where I think I should have had maybe a couple of tequila shots or something just to like ease because I went in there like sober and like not. I mean, whatever. Just
sober's not bad. Your energy's a little more on tilt sober. I remember my first couple times I wasn't sober, but looking back at it, it does mess with your rhythm a little bit, the drinking, right? Like you'll say something and then you may say it a little slower, and timing's everything sometimes. So I mean, I would not suggest it, and I wouldn't suggest it. I think it's just to each his own. But yeah, being sober is like, dude, your brain is just like taking everything in, and I think when you're drinking a little bit, you're like, all right, if this doesn't work out, I can just throw up on people.
Dude, that's what it is, right? Because when you're drinking, that it just turns off that part of your brain where you're like, I don't really give a fuck if this even works out at all, actually.
Precisely, yeah. And
really
when it goes well, yeah, it's stupid. Roast battle comes from the open mic culture. So
yeah,
I was working at the Comedy Store here in Hollywood, 2012-ish, and I think they had gotten rid of. There was 2 open mics they had, one on Sunday, one on Monday. They just got rid of the Sunday mic because they wanted to make more money or something like that. So I just started coming up in LA, right? And a lot of the guys I was coming up with, they were going to lose spots, and they were going to start coming to the store, and that's where I was most of the time. I was like, well, I want to lose, this culture of like, all these guys I'm coming up with. I want to keep that. I'm going to keep an open mic here. So how do I do that? So then the only time that was open was a Tuesday because they're just dead nights. Tuesdays were dead nights, notorious in LA for like open mics, just because there's so many other shows going on because there's so many comics who are in town, right? Because on the weekends, everybody's going out of town. All your big names are going out of town. They're bringing their features with them. For the most part, LA is not like a dead place on the weekends, but it's all the big stars aren't really here. But then they're here during the week. Your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, for the most part. Through Wednesday, they're here. Wednesday's more dead. Tuesday's a little more lively. Monday is like everybody's sleeping, right? But then they have the open mic on the Comedy Store on Mondays. So I was like, all right, cool. I'll try Tuesdays. So Tuesday I had this mic with this girl. I was living at her place, whatever. Like I was couch surfing, living at her place, and I was like, yo, we should start this mic, right? Because she was kind of like a fixture in town. And then we had it, and then we had fucked up because we had gotten in a fight with the promoter who had the time slot before us. So the booker at the time, Adam Egett, who's now in Austin with Joe Rogan, he was like, all right, you guys can't have this mic anymore. You guys fucked it up. The moneymaker before you guys is pissed off and yada, yada, yada. So we got rid of it. And then I kept asking for it. So around like the beginning of 2013, I got it back. And then I was trying to make it not boring because, I mean, like if you go to open mic, like you're talking about that Red Bar one, they're boring. They suck. Nobody wants to be there because everybody's trying the new material and it may be good and may not be. But for the most part, you're only going to see 2 good guys or maybe 1 good girl or whoever knows how many people you're going to see, right? But it's a long time. It's like a 4-hour event. And I was like, I want everybody to stay in the fucking room because I know I had to stay in the room the whole time, just, yada, yada, yada. So I was like, all right, I'll make sure everybody stays in here and I'll make sure it's like people they like who are doing time that they like open mic heroes. I'll make sure those guys get a lot of time. Yeah. And that was working. People were coming in. It started becoming a busy mic. And people were staying in the room, which is great. So it built more of a camaraderie. It built a little bit of community. And guys weren't really bombing all the time when they're going up like trying new material. So it became like an actual room. And real supportive, kind of like that improv shit. But then there was just one night where an employee who was drunk and one of the new comics, an open mic comic at the time, he was going up, and then this drunk employee was like, yo, he's not 21. What's he doing in here? And we were like, what? He's been coming for like 6 months. Oh shit. And then the other kid was just like, oh man, what the fuck? Why you diming me out, kind of a thing. And he's like, I'll beat your ass. And we were like, yo, all right, why don't you guys start biting right now, kind of a thing. And then I, cooler heads prevailed, and I was like, yo, I just got this room back. They just put cameras in here. Like, I can't lose this mic again, kind of a thing. Like, I'll, be known as like this mic that's always here and then always pops up every 6 months. So then I was like, all right, how about this? When you turn 21, Kenny, his name's Kenny Lyon, I was like, you guys come back and you talk shit to Josh, and we'll score it like a boxing match, kind of a thing, right? You guys will like you guys will roast battle, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then yeah, Kenny turned 21, I think like end of July or something like that. And then he came back a couple weeks later, and then he battled Josh. It was awful. And then everybody saw it and we're like, yo, I could do that. And then every Tuesday from that July on in 2013, we've been doing it.
Damn, dude, that's sick. So you guys, so basically how it's set up is there's two people up there, and then it's scored like a boxing match, and then they just roast the shit out of each other.
I mean, basically it's a verbal boxing match. So it's two guys, they pick each other, you know what I mean? They're friends or they're foes, whatever they are. They go against each other, and then there's three judges, or it's supposed to be three judges. They score it basically, and then whoever gets the most votes wins.
Dude, that is awesome. That's the thing. I've seen like roasts obviously online. What is it? Like the big one, like Comedy Central. I've seen some of those.
Oh yeah.
Where it's, like Donald Trump or something like that. Like
yeah.
So I feel you got to be a particular type of person to really handle that stuff and like remove, because what's crazy about roasting that I think is, yes, it is a joke, but any roast is partly true, right? So like if you think about Trump, like when he got roasted, a lot of it was about like, his hair, maybe face being red or whatever, but there's always, actually, maybe, I don't want to say it's always, but it seems like most of the time in a joke, there is at least a piece of truth.
No, I mean, like, no, I think Shakespeare says that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
The truth is to often be said in jest. Something like that. I think, like, don't quote me on the quote, but that's where the quote is.
Yeah, so that's why I just think, to be like to be a roaster, because it's one thing to roast someone else. That I don't want to say it's easy, but it's like less. I mean, it's not about you, so you can just say fucked up things about somebody else and still go to bed at night. But then if they're saying about you, I would cycle through and be like, yeah, a little bit of that was actually true, and everybody laughed at it. I should maybe look at that. It's a little fucked up, dude.
Sarah Silverman is known for roasting, and she's a good friend, just like Jeff is. Ross.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Jeff.
She would say that she's like, it takes about a month or two to shake that stuff off.
So how many when you do it, it's not always new people. So like how or is it always?
I mean, for the most part, it's usually no. I mean, we've been doing it 9 years. It's not all new people now. I mean, but there's a new class that's coming in now. But when there's stars, there's guys who come back and do it and are really good at it,
Yeah.
And I think that's the great thing that keeps me coming back every week is if there are guys that I know and love and seen before, I'm gonna hear new jokes about them from somebody, right? Even if they're like battling for the 8th time against this person or the 1st time against this person, I get to hear a new joke that they had to think of about this person. So it's pretty incredible because you can see like the depth that people will go to get a joke out of somebody.
Dude, it is, yeah. And I would imagine, because that's where, with the improv, that's what got me hooked, because I understand completely, I shouldn't say completely, but as a comedian, I can understand how it would become very addicting in a good way. Like it's just like, it feels incredible to have a crowd laugh based on something that you did or said. Even if you're joking about yourself a little, if it's something that like you came up with and then it just kills, that feeling there's not many better feelings than that feeling. So
yeah, it's like cooking something that's like playing music and people really love it. I mean, like that's the arts, man. I mean, that's really what it is. It's like you're creating this thing from within yourself, and then everybody likes it objectively to you at that point. There's no drug that can replicate that.
Dude, there isn't. I know. I was literally just thinking that, like, because and I know it's so minor in comparison, but I just mean in the improv, I remember a few key moments because we would do like shows for like friends and family, kind of. So it would only be like 20, 30 people, nothing crazy, but
a lot of people.
Yeah, but okay, yeah, so a decent amount, but I would do something and then they would all think it was funny, and I remember that just like rush. And I like drinking. I've tried my share of other things, but there's nothing like that,
Nothing like that, man.
And it's healthy, right? So
it's still an addiction. I mean, because then you're chasing that now. Like I'm still doing this for 15 years. I'm still chasing that. Like, oh man, I hope they like this tonight. We'll get that hit tonight, that laughter. Yeah.
It's still an addiction. True. Yeah, that is definitely true. So you got roast battle. Like, what else? Or I mean, like, what's kind of is the end goal to like take this all the way that as far as you can, or what?
Roast battle? I mean, roast battle started as like a side project. You know, I was just doing with like Jeff Ross in the community, the LA community, who was just into roasting each other. You know, consensual.
Yeah. No, I mean, no,
it's
comedy as a whole. I meant, yeah.
Oh, comedy as a whole.
Yeah.
I mean, I take it project by project just because it's such a major genre. It is the show business industry that I'm in, I guess. So I what I want to do is I want to create a really, really dope special, I guess, next. I had a small sketch show on Comedy Central. I would love to have another sketch show. With Roast Battle in particular, though, we'd love to just make this like an actual sport, you know, like we want this to be like the spelling bee, you know, we want this to be like the NHL, MLB, NBA, you know, NFL. We want this to be like a gambling backed, sports betting app back, you know, sport. You know what I mean? Like an actual league. Like we got Miami, we got LA, we got Austin, we got London, we got Tokyo. So we have an 8-team league now. And these guys, like, sometimes they'll battle each other. We're working on getting an event right now. Like, we're trying to like do monthly, you know, with the live stream platform and the sports gambling better. So we'll see. But
dude, that's what I was just gonna say, because I just invested in Better because they're based down here in Miami. So yeah, I know those guys, and I was literally just thinking, I'm like, once you have that all set up, I don't know if they're only sports, but I would imagine, because I think the whole idea of it, just this shows how bad of an investor I am because I don't fully understand. But I think though it's like anything basically, but it's like micro. So for what you're trying to do, it would be perfect to be on Better, I think. Pretty sure.
Let me know. I mean, I'm talking to Bravada, I'm talking to FanDuel, I'm talking to DraftKings. You know, I mean, like DraftKings just put up money for they sponsor a frisbee golf league, a disc golf league. So I mean, you know, there's money out there for these things. So Better. I mean, I've read about those cats. I don't know too much about them. There's not a lot about them, but yeah, let me know. Like offline, like I'd love to talk about it.
All right, no, that sounds good. Yeah, and they're a little bit younger, but yeah, we'll talk about it then. That could be interesting. So gotcha. Okay, dude, that sounds like a lot of fun. And let me ask you this, because I don't know these roast battles, or maybe it's just not at that, because you're talking to do monthly subscription. Are you is it like on YouTube, these roast battles? Because I don't know.
So there's Roast Battle Chicago. They have full episodes on YouTube. Roast Battle Chicago, I think it's their YouTube channel. Yeah, there's a Roast Battle New York, a Roast Battle Austin, a Roast Battle Bay Area, a Roast Battle Tokyo, Roast Battle.
All right, I'm gonna watch these.
There's a bunch of Roast Battle UK. So there's a bunch, and I know that here in the States on television, on linear, we did 3 seasons here in the States called Jeff Ross Presents Roast Battle on Comedy Central, which is now Paramount Plus, I think it's on. And then overseas in the UK, we did 4 seasons and a Christmas special. So I think that was on Amazon Prime at one point. And now they do them all over, like, and anything that's like Viacom International, like Comedy Central International, they're doing them. So there's a couple seasons on Germany, there's a couple seasons in Spain, there's a couple seasons in Norway. I don't know. It's crazy. There's so many of them now.
Dude, that's nuts. Yeah, it's so great because, as I'm sure you're more aware than like most, being like a creative like you are, like there's so many people publishing stuff on YouTube. Like even, you know, like I even just mentioned, like obviously Rogan went to Spotify, but like Kill Tony, Tiger, like it's hard to actually watch. It actually makes me it makes me somewhat depressed thinking like to imagine being a consumer and then like shoot. And I obviously love my show, but just imagining like all the other shows out there, right? And then to choose mine over all those is like kind of wild for me to like, you know, you have to like try out Rogan and be like, okay, like, and that's like 3 hours. You only got 21. Right. So it's really, I'm just saying it's interesting because I want to search, but like in my YouTube algorithm or whatever, I haven't seen it on there. So I thought you were only doing it privately in LA. So that's awesome, dude. I'm going to look that up.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone that would not find that funny, dude, to just watch 2 people rip each other apart. Like that sounds like a fucking great.
And it's consensual. I think we have to like say that more. Like this isn't bullying. This is consensual act. These guys are going at it. I mean, they wanted to. You know, we have, and everybody's open season, man. From people with physical disabilities to mental disabilities to, I mean, everything. I would get people from who are trans to cerebral palsy to HIV positive to monkeypox. We do it all.
Dude, that's freaking awesome. Well, yeah, man. No, thank you for coming on. I want to leave the floor to you, and just if there's anything that we didn't cover that you want to share, please do. And then let us know like where to find you, like website or anything else where people can stay in contact.
Yeah, just I mean, honestly, it's just verbalviolence.com, verbalviolence.com. Just because that's where all the podcasts you can get on there, our Roast Radio podcast, our Roast Battle Weekly podcast, Roast Battle League Weekly podcast. Those are all on there, I want to say, or the Roast Battle YouTube channel that has everything we have also. But mainly that's it, man. Yeah, we're just trying to get this Roast Battle League up and running because I think that's going to be the thing that's going to make us millionaires, Tyler, you know?
I'm in.
In the Roast Battle League, and that's going to make us billionaires. So
let's do it.
We'll have a shit talking tournament, we'll do every March Madness. So we'll see.
I'm fucking in, dude. Honestly. Thank you again for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
You're the man, dude. Thank you.